Hello and welcome to another of these interviews to commemorate the death of George Floyd. I'm Jane, I'm the chaplain here at York St John's, and I'm joined today by Joe Thompson, who is the head of Human Resources. Welcome, Joe.
Well, thank you.
It's good to have you here today, and this is a very sensitive topic that we're talking about. So my question to you is, how did the death of George Floyd a year ago affect you?
It's sometimes difficult, isn't it, to find the right words to sort of describe how it made me feel, and not just me, but the whole world really. And I think it's difficult to capture that feeling of emotion and that shock and that horror and just pure disbelief that it was actually happening, and that did happen in this day and age. So I don't feel I've actually found the perfect words of describing how I felt at that time, but seeing it and hearing what happened, it was that shock and disbelief, I think, as well as the anger and just the upset and the emotion and sadness, but disbelief as well, really.
What was the disbelief about? Can you pin that down?
I think the fact that it's happening now. I suppose we hear all the time, don't we, around discrimination, and particularly more in America even than this country. Even though I'm not naive enough to think that it's not happening in this country, because it clearly is. But I think I kind of feel that we've moved on from that discrimination that's happening, and that in this day and age that Black people are still being treated in that way. And I was just reflecting on my time in America in the late 80s. I spent a year there after university and studying kind of race studies as part of my degree, and spending a year on the East Coast. I was shocked at that time by the segregation in America. So every city that I visited, and as I was traveling for the year, I kind of visited quite a lot of cities, was seeing every city I went to, there was such poverty and deprivation by Black communities living in America. And even that was small towns. I was living just near Princeton, New Jersey, and again, a town such as Princeton, there was still an area of that town where Black people were living in poverty. That was the late 80s. You kind of think in this day and age that we've learned from our mistakes, and we've moved on, and people aren't treated in that way. And not that I ever saw any of that kind of violence, don't get me wrong, I didn't witness any of that. But so I think it was disbelief that we're still in that place where we are treating Black people in that way.
It's like that sign that you see people carrying, excuse me, I think there was a famous photograph, wasn't there, at a demonstration with a little old lady holding up a banner that says, "I can't believe I'm still protesting this." Word I can't say on this.
Yeah.
And it's true. I can't believe it's still happening, still going on. And George Floyd was one of very, very many.
Yeah, absolutely. And it isn't just in America, is it? It's, there's case over here in terms of how people are being treated, and so we can't just say, oh, it's just happening in America, or it's isolated incident, because unfortunately it isn't.
Yeah. So you work in human resources at York St John. Did this the death of George Floyd, and then of course obviously the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement and so on, did that affect the way that you work, the way that you view your job?
I think for a while now, the university, we've been trying to take a more proactive view on how we address race equality. And I think, I've worked at York St John for 11 years, very long time, and it's only really in the last couple of years with the Race Equality Task Group and now the Race Equality Charter, which I sit on the self-assessment team for that I think we've recognised the fact that we've kind of moved from that place of saying it's about race equality to taking more of an anti-racism approach, which is much more of a direct and proactive, and it's that word active, isn't it, stance in terms of how we approach things, whether that's around recruitment or pay and reward. it's kind of, you know, if I think about my role and how we recruit talent, it's not enough that we can sit back and wait for people to just come to us and apply to work at the university. We can't do that, because that's not working. You know, we have to be much more proactive and look at ways, how can we sell ourselves better to attract a more diverse workforce to come and work for us, and what positive action can we take in that respect, whether that's working with particular communities, breaking down potential barriers that might be there that are stopping people applying. How can we be attractive as an employer? Because at the moment we're not attracting the best talent, and that's what we need to be doing. And so I suppose it has changed a little bit how I've seen things. And I think what the Race Equality Charter has enabled us to do is to listen to what Black colleagues are telling us, and we've not really done that before. And I feel that finally we are listening to people and taking their views and not making assumptions. It's really easy to make assumptions about what we think we should be doing. And one of the things that I'm learning, and I have to say I'm learning because I'm not, you know, not getting it right all the time, but one of the things that I'm learning is that we need to listen to feedback, and try things out. And actually it's okay to get things wrong. And as long as we learn from that and we learn from our mistakes, you know, that's okay if we say the wrong things.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I found that learning about white privilege has been really helpful to me in thinking this through, because I've realized that things like making assumptions are basically exercising my white privilege in a way of saying, well, I know what's going on here, I know what needs to be sorted, you know, and things that we've been unconscious of that we've done, and now that they've come into our consciousness, finally, not before time, we can start to do something about it and start to change the way that we act and actually improve our listening.
I think I agree. I mean, I'm one of the reading materials recommended for part that's been on the self-assessment team is one of the books by Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, which I'm now halfway through reading it. But there's a chapter that I just read on white privilege, and there's obviously quite a lot of writing around this. And I know it's quite contentious, and some people don't think it's a thing or don't get it. But I think, you know, reading the book, it's very much, it is a thing, and we're just not aware of it, because being a white woman, you know, I can walk in a shop, I can go to the local hairdressers, it's all that kind of thing. I'm privileged, the fact that I can just go to the village hairdressers and have my hair cut, and it's things that you're just not aware of, and we just don't think about, because it's just that acceptance that we can do those things. And I think, you know, the writings around white privilege, and the more I read about it, it's understanding that it just isn't the same for other people, and for Black people, that the way that I think for a while now we've been more aware from a disability perspective around accessibility of buildings and premises and those obstacles that if somebody's in a wheelchair that have to face. But I think it's been less clear, or people have been less willing to take on board what it means to be white and the privileges that comes just because of the colour of our skin. I don't think, not everybody's at that place to accept that yet.
And of course, going back to George Floyd, one of the consequences of white privilege for decades, centuries, has been that when white people kill Black people, they very often don't get a fair trial, and they very often don't get a full sentence or don't get sentenced for it. And a few weeks ago, we had the verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin, and he was found guilty on all counts. So I wonder, how did that affect you? How did that make you feel when that came out?
It's using that word to say, yeah, I felt that justice had been done. I won't use the word saying that I'm pleased, because it doesn't feel it's the right word in the right context, because, you know, how can you say that you're kind of pleased with anything in respect of this? But I think what you can say is that I felt that, you know, finally there was justice there for what happened. And if you just think back to the whole Stephen Lawrence inquiry, and the fact that it probably was it about 20 years or something for those convictions to be I mean, it's unbelievable. It's using that. None of this is really believable, but I think that was the result of the trial and the verdict. I think people actually felt that, yeah, justice had been done. And that's the best way I can kind of sum up how I felt at the time.
Yeah, and certainly I think I also felt hope that, I can't even say if this happens again, but when this happens again, there will be more accountability and there will be more justice to come that will help people to really think about their actions before they do things.
I absolutely hope so. And I think what it has done is, the whole Black Lives Matter movement and the awareness that I would hope has raised, throughout the world around what actually is happening in lots of different countries. I think hopefully it's achieved something from that. If I think about really bring football into this, but I think I'm part of a family of absolute football fanatics, and seeing before every Premier League game, people taking the knee and footballers taking the knee, it's powerful. Even now, a year on, nearly a year on, it's powerful to see that, and you've got to hope, haven't we? We've all got to hope that that movement and the publicity that's come and just the outrage that has come from George Floyd's death will have an impact, a positive impact, if we can look at it that way. If there is any positive impact from that people are learning from their mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, Jo, we're going to have to finish because we're out of time. Thank you so much for your honesty and your vulnerability in speaking to us today, and hope you have a good day for the rest of it.